O'Reilly. Are your wiper blades chattering, skipping, or squeaking? Don't let streaks or smearing on your windshield compromise your visibility. When it's time to replace your wiper blades, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and see our selection. Our professional parts people will even install your new wiper blades while you wait. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today. You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins.
Oh, hey, everyone. Welcome to the bizarro world that is a Hunting Collective podcast about a Tiger King. And Phil, we just went through essentially 2 hours of conversation about the Netflix documentary called Tiger King. And I've had, at this moment, 3 White Claw seltzer beverages and then a Meat Eater whiskey cocktail. So I'm feeling pretty good. I blew off a lot of steam for the last couple of weeks of quarantine. All the feelings that come up from being stuck in a house. And not being able to do what I normally do. So I really enjoyed blowing off steam, talking about Tiger King, and enjoying this moment in time that is the coronavirus pandemic. What do you think there, Philip?
I mean, we talked about it at the end of the episode, which people will hear coming up, but this documentary could not have dropped at a better time. I mean, for Netflix and for us, honestly. I think it was like a week into the kind of quarantine business, maybe a couple, depending on where you live, and people were looking for something to just kind of like let go and just, kind of a release or an escape. And here comes Joe Exotic. Yeah. And it was a nice seven-part escape from the outside world.
Well, either way, if you've watched it or you haven't watched it, I think this will be entertaining. We did our best just to let it fly. And so there's some colorful language, there's some crazy stories. All of this follows one of the wildest documentaries you'll ever watch. And so enjoy episode number 10 of the Quarantine Cast, our review of Tiger King. Lay him down.
Tell him that the tiger.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Let him run the jungle.
Oh!
Let him roam their land.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. It's Carol Baskin here from Big Cat Rescue. Welcome to the Hunting Collective. Hi!
That was perfect.
Phil, did you like that intro?
It was the best one you've ever done.
I would have talked about Carol Baskin voice for the whole podcast. All right, well, welcome everyone to the first and probably not last Tiger King review podcast here at THC. Everybody get a round of applause for for the Tiger King. My God. Beautiful. We're joined by the great and powerful Annie Racer. Hi, Annie.
Hello.
The flip-flop flesher, Seth Morris. Hello, Seth.
Hello, Ben and everyone.
And Philip, the engineer.
Hello, I'm finishing dinner.
What do you have in there, bud?
I got some like a vegetable gratin. Got some like cauliflower and broccoli, and some pork chops.
Okay,
Oh, sounds great, Phil.
That was
Substantial.
That was pretty boring. That's fine.
Thanks for that boring news.
Boring news. Now on to the more exciting stuff. I'd like to thank Sweet Baby Jesus for 6 pound 8 ounce. Don't even know a word yet. In his golden fleece diaper for creating the Tiger King and all his friends. I can't think of a better way to get through this tough time than by having a happy hour with you three and talking about what is possibly the greatest show ever made. Annie, how are you feeling right now? You're excited?
Oh, I'm great. My dog just got in my business, but I'm great. I thoroughly enjoyed this 6 hours, and so much so I unconsciously put on these pants this morning.
What do you got?
Oh,
Let's
God.
see. Leopard pants. Cat pants.
And then I was going to change out of them, but I was like, wait a second. I'm going on a Tiger King podcast later. Keeping them.
Yeah, I feel like it's a catharsis. It lets off steam. I have a Yeti tumbler full of ice and also Meat Eater whiskey, and then I have a raspberry and ruby red grapefruit White Claw to top those off. So I'm looking to get real buzzed right now. Just enough to bring all of you the most scattered, most random review of this 7-episode menagerie that you'll ever get. Seth, how are you feeling right now? Just taking a temperature. Are you nervous? Are you scared? Are you excited?
No, I'm excited to talk about this. Like I was telling you before, I couldn't believe what I was seeing the whole time I was watching it.
Yeah. Phil, I'm going to give you a chance to be the first. This is, like I said, a lot of people wanted to be in on this podcast, but I'm going to give you a chance, kind of a reward of sorts. Going to give you a chance to summarize what the Tiger King documentary is and what it means to you.
This is okay. This is the story of Joe Exotic.
Yep.
A big cat. I don't know. What do you want to say? A big cat. He ran a big cat zoo. Let's just say zoo in southern Oklahoma.
Yeah, if Dog the Bounty Hunter, Liberace, and Joe Dirt had a baby.
That is accurate, Ben.
Kind of the story about how he, in the span of, from the beginning, when they started making this documentary, it was probably, I think, 3 or 4 years, how he ends up in prison. They tease that at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And then also just the world of big cat owners in this country, and their personalities and how they all, their relationships with each other. I'd say that's kind of like that's like the documentary as a whole. Yeah,
I mean, if we were going to do a This Is Us and start at the end, which I like to do. So I love the show This Is Us. The terminus of the story is when Joe Exotic, who has for many decades held animals in cages to make money, ends up in a cage himself and begins to complain about being locked in said cage. And the beauty and the poetic ending is that he starts to realize what it means to be locked up because some of his improprieties along the way. So that I feel like that's Andy. Do you feel like that's a good way to kind of analogous way to end things, like the terminus of the story?
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing, I've been telling people that I don't want to tell them too much because it's just like the craziest thing you've ever seen and you have to watch it. But just that statistic where it's something like 7,000 to 10,000 tigers live in the United States under captivity, but there's only like 3,000 or 4,000 or something in the wild.
Yeah, 4,000 in the wild, 5,000 to 10,000 in the United States of America. Most of those in Texas, as has been discussed on the Meat Eater podcast and others I've been a part of. is that something we know of and something we just kind of think of as a piece of Americana? Like only America would be so bold and egotistical as to own more.
I had no idea this was happening, though. Did you guys know this?
I had no clue.
No.
I knew of it because I lived in Texas, and pretty much everybody with a ranch has a tiger.
What?
Yeah, I mean, I was hunting. I told the story before on the podcast. I was hunting turkeys one time, killed a turkey, and in doing it was on a high fence ranch. Killed a turkey, and in doing so, almost got stepped on by an eland, which is the largest African antelope living, and thought that was weird. And then was walking back to the lodge, to the house where we were going to check in to show everybody the turkey, and then I turned the corner, and there in a cage was a leopard and a Bengal tiger. And so I got to take a lot of tiger selfies in my camo with my turkey.
It's illegal. It's illegal to buy tigers, right?
I made a note of that because of the Endangered Species Act. I'll have to find it. I want to make sure we get that part of it right. It was organized crime after the Endangered Species Act. It said you can't buy, sell, or barter an endangered species, which, in terms of the Bengal tiger and others, they are endangered. And so, yeah, that's
why it's so mind blowing that so many people have them.
Right. I mean,
they're obviously buying them.
Yeah, private ownership is not banned as of yet, and I know that's what the act that they were trying to push, that our friend Carol Baskin, who we'll hear a lot about, is trying to push, the Big Cat Public Safety Act. They call that it's in Congress now. They call that an urgently needed solution to the problem of big cats kept as pets in unsafe and abusive circumstances. They say wild animals imprisoned in basements or backyards not only suffer immensely, but also pose a serious risk of safety to the surrounding community. That's kind of the thesis of the Big Cat Public Safety Act that our friend, everybody's friend now, Carol Baskin, is pushing with lawmakers.
I don't know if she's my friend.
I don't know about old Carol.
All right, well, I have a series of questions.
I just want to say her husband, Howard, is definitely my friend.
He's my favorite. I don't know. If I had to rank my top 10, somewhere in my top 10 favorite moments was when she was walking in the cat cemetery where every time a cat dies, she makes a little gravestone. And he just looks at her and goes, "You're the Mother Teresa of cats."
Also, right before that, she's like going through the gravestones of the cats, and then he starts being like, "Oh yeah, that was a great cat." She's basically like, "Well, why don't you just tell him, since you seem to know like everything about him?" She was like pissed that he like had interrupted her.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yep. And
he's like, "Sorry, you're the Mother Teresa."
It calls back to their wedding photo where he's wearing like a cat outfit with a leash on.
Kneeling on the ground. Yeah.
On the beach somewhere.
Oh my God, I can't take it. I might pass out.
Okay.
I might pass out.
Should we
set Phil? I'm passing out. I can't take it.
I think we should set this general scene.
I don't think we should set it up because there's no
scene.
setting it up.
People are listening, probably have seen this or not. Do we just want to?
I don't give a shit. There's no way to get a hold of this. There's no way. All right, I have a list of questions that I'd like us to discuss prior to getting into the linear story of Tiger King. And Phil has so eloquently described what we're talking about. So if at this point you haven't seen it, take a break. We'll see you in 7 hours. Go watch it. And we're back. I hope you enjoyed that 7 hours of pure bliss that is Tiger King. Now that we're back, I have a question for the group here, and I'm going to start with Phil. Why are we as humans, or at least the millions of humans that were profiled as kind of the consumers of cat cub petting and zoos, why are we so drawn to big cats, Phil? What is it about tigers, ligers, and the like, leopards and all these other things? Why are we drawn to this particular animal species?
I mean, I can only speak personally. They look almost they look so familiar yet so alien at the same time, because I feel like we have a lot of kind of, we're so used to seeing domesticated cats everywhere because the cat's been domesticated for, someone please probably knows this. I don't, Ben. But they're just so muscular, and the patterns on their hair and their fur are just like they just like exotic to choose a word, and they're just incredibly like attractive, charismatic animals. That's the way I guess the way I can put it.
Yeah, 4,000 years ago, ancient Egyptians may have been the first to domesticate cats. Plentiful rodents probably drew wild felines to human communities. And then 4,000 years later, Joe Exotic shows up, just wrecks shop. So, Andy, do you want to try to answer that question? Why are we so drawn to big cats?
Oh, I didn't know this was going to be a quiz. Everything Phil said, but yeah, I just feel like they're like a majestic and also like elusive. Like there aren't a lot, and like in the world, in the wild. So it's like you don't have exposure to them.
Yes.
Maybe.
Well, even in the doc, the documentarian, the guy, what was his name? The guy that Rick Kirkman said it's hard to explain the addiction to exotic animals. He mentioned in the doc there was kind of like a feeling of power, that there's like a feeling of facing danger, and because of your proximity to this powerful animal, that you somehow like get some of that power. And that may be why people are so drawn to big cats. I mean, these guys are making millions of dollars on petting cubs, taking photos with tiger cubs, just to see them in the case of big cat rescue. Like, there's so much going on there. I think that may be one of the questions that Tiger King maybe was trying to answer, but got off track at the murder and the meth and the polygamist gay people. Like... It got off track there, but it's trying to answer that question. So the secondary question for you, Seth, is why are crazy people drawn to owning cats?
Dude, I don't know, but literally every, at least from the series, every cat owner, like big cat owner in America, is just fucking crazy.
Well, I mean,
crazy.
That's why I want to say, Ben, you say it gets off track there, but I think that's like part of it. Like, it's these types of personalities that are attracted to these animals.
Yeah, agreed.
And they're all super weird. I feel like having like those people having these cats gives them like power in a way where they had never had that before, just because they're super fucking weird people.
Yes.
Well, there's no way that essentially what this documentary becomes, as you start to learn about its characters, is a series of cults. There's essentially three cults. I wrote down the type of cults that are there. This is a weird story of three cults that are working in concert. You have a crazy animal rights lady named Carol, who's attracted volunteers who work 12-hour days to get different colored T-shirts.
That's their practice.
That's it. That's all they get.
And it takes years. It takes years to get a different color.
And they
Some
even
will graduate to navy blue.
They even mention that like no holidays are not an option when you're volunteering at the big cat.
I also love that she's like, I honestly don't know anybody's name until they've been working here for like 7 years.
I don't understand. So you have that, right? That's the first cult. That cult, the kind of the center point of that cult, or the ethos of that cult, is saving big cats by putting them in cages and showing them to people. That's kind of what they do, and then selling merchandise. Now you have Joe Exotic, who has a methed out misfit cult of former gang members, former guys who he met on Craigslist, people he picks up at fucking gas stations. Like he has basically a school bus full of meth that he drives around Oklahoma, and he picks up random weird people. And he marries some of them. Most of them are missing some kind of body part for some reason. The one guy, he's like, "How did I lose my legs?" Well, not by tigers, a zip line accident. Like,
yeah,
what?
I remember hearing that and being like, "What?"
Or you're definitely thinking that whole first episode, you're like, this guy's legs got fucking eaten by a tiger.
Yeah.
And then he's like, Zip line.
A tragic zip line accident. There's another guy who is the zoo manager or zookeeper, the head keeper of the zoo. Found the job on Craigslist. I'd shit you not, and had never managed an animal in his life.
He's my favorite character, by the way.
He looks like if Joe Dirt was on meth, and so he's there. So that's the second cult. And the third cult is an elephant riding douchebag named Baklava Doc Antle, who's kind of like the Hugh Hefner of big cat owners.
Oh yeah.
He has just somehow tricked all these young ladies into wearing leopard print skin tight pants and like posing with cats and making calendars and living in like roach infested horse stalls. And
he lures in virgins and then makes appointments for boob jobs.
Yeah, get some boob jobs, makes them become vegetarians. Like this dude, he grows like a silver ponytail, and he has like a flavor saver, and it's just it's just so disgusting. He comes out on an elephant in front of a crowd and is like, "Yeah, I've known this elephant all my life, and we're both fat now. What is wrong with you?" Anyway. He also says at one point in defense of his cult, everything is nice, everything is good, everything is beautiful. And anybody who tells you that is clearly into something effed up. Like, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. So anyway, that's the three cults that we're looking at here. And they all kind of revolve around this idea of owning big cats and making money off the owning of them. It's Carol Baskin's case. She just makes money off making people think she's saving them. And the other two guys are only arguing that it's the proximity to the cats that allows people to have a relationship with them. And then Doc Antle says zoos can be a real tool for education because it opens people's hearts and wallets. He says this. This is a person who says it opens people's hearts and wallets to tigers so he can do worldwide conservation. Which made I had a brain hemorrhage right at that point.
What conservation efforts are you like? What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about, man? Anyway, those are the three cults that are kind of collected here. And beyond that, I believe there to be three levels to this story. And the story is over 7 hours of kind of a cascading waterfall of just shocking moments that by the time it's over, you're drowning in this water that is filled with just ironies, and it's just you can't take it anymore. But anyway, there's three levels to this story. The first level is learning about the people and the culture. The first couple episodes are kind of like learning about the people and the culture in which they live. The next couple of episodes are learning exactly how fucked up they all are. And then the third level details the war between them for ultimate power in what is like a Star Wars-like universe where they're all fighting for the throne of sorts, whatever you would call that.
That'd be a Game of
to
Thrones
be Tiger
universe.
King.
Yeah.
Only one can be Tiger King.
Only one can be Tiger King, yes. Seth, have I done well at kind of encapsulating what's going on here?
No one could have done it better, Ben.
Okay, well,
That was perfect.
a couple of quotes I have. Nothing is cooler, sexier, or more significant than a tiger. Who said that, Annie?
Oh, who says the word significant? Probably not Joe Exotic. Maybe Doc. Doc. Was it Doc?
It's
You
Doc,
got it.
right?
That's correct.
Yes.
Who says owning a tiger is all about look at me?
Ooh.
Ooh, I got.
Carol Baskin.
I was gonna
Knew
say
it.
that has to have been Carol.
Carol Baskin. So those are our characters. There are like ancillary characters within each cult.
Sorry.
So Phil,
Yes.
do you remember, Philip? Do you remember how it is that the filmmaker, the folks who made this filmmaker, the guy's name's Eric Good. Do you remember like how he got interested in telling this story?
He was shooting. He didn't say specifically what, but he was shooting something involving like reptiles. Am I right?
He was shooting something in Florida, like people that own snakes, like exotic
Yeah,
snakes.
and then some guy's like, "Hey, come in the back. You want to see what I've got in my trailer?"
Yeah, there was a guy there buying snakes.
Yeah. So
And then the
here's
guy was
deal.
like, "Hey, check out what I got in my van that I just bought."
This is my favorite, one of my favorite parts, top 10 moment. This guy goes, "Hey, look at my van." Just this guy is the antithesis, like he is the Florida man that you hear about in the news, just driving a van around. And he opens the door to this van, as into like opening the door to Narnia, opens the door to this van. And in a cage in the van is a fucking snow leopard. I have
Panting to death.
yeah.
Yeah, and the
I-
guy was like, "Isn't it too hot here for a snow leopard?"
He's like, nope. If they're born in Florida, they're good. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? That's not true at all. That's not even close to true.
No.
So that began the 5-year journey. Now this filmmaker Eric Good's like, well, I should look into this, which good for him, because that's what I would have done if some dude in a van was like, hey, check out my snow leopard. I probably would have looked into it. So he went on a 5-year journey to discover what it is the big cat trade, and then he stumbled upon at some point the GW Exotic Animal Park in Oklahoma. And that was owned and started by a man named Joe Exotic. And I already kind of did a brief description of Joe Exotic, but I'll give you a chance to kind of just talk a little bit about Joe. Just let it out.
Oh man, where do I even start? Joe Exotic. He's got a mullet that's bleached blonde. Lots of piercings, tattoos. How old is he? He's like in his late 40s.
He's in his early 50s when they start the documentary.
He's 94 years old.
He's exotic is a great word for him. He's very exotic. He's a gun-toting. Man, I don't even know how to describe this guy. He's
Physically.
He's gay. He's a hillbilly.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
He has a bowl cut and a mullet. That's bleach blonde.
Yeah, he does. I really don't know how.
Yeah, I
How
don't
to
even have the
describe
words
him.
to describe.
Let's
Joe
take
Exotic.
a brief musical interlude while we think about how to describe him here.
Then stand back and marvel. What a beautiful cat. 'Cause I saw a tiger. Now I understand.
This one's my favorite.
And we're back.
He's so good at singing.
Now, there's a lot of questions I have about this, but yeah, Joe, like if you think of characters that might combine to make some, I already said a lot of this, but Joe Dirt, Dog the Bounty Hunter, Liberace, any famous ice dancer would kind of fit here. Any famous animal handler that's like been on a late night TV show, all of those people. What was the Australian guy that got killed by the stingray?
Oh,
Steve
Steve
Irwin.
Irwin.
Steve Irwin. He's in there somewhere. It's just like a gumbo of personality. That
Mixed with a meth crystal.
yeah. Every time you take a bite of this gumbo, you get a different flavor. I mean, you just don't know what you're gonna get with our man Joe. And that's really true throughout the entire thing. Is now like he started his exotic animal park after his brother died. What did his brother die from? I don't have that in my notes. Do you guys remember?
Oh, no.
Maybe I'm wrong about that, but someone died in his life. And he was like, well, I got to start to make sure that they're not just another statistic. I'm going to start a zoo where I'm going to save the tigers. And this is 1999. And from there, it seemed like in the beginning, Joe Exotic had a good he had an idea that he was going to save cats and do good by this great animal. In the beginning, it seemed like that's what he wanted to do. Somewhere in there in the beginning, he becomes a magician. I don't really have anything to say about it. I don't know what to fucking say about that. He just becomes a magician.
Antle also a magician?
Jock Antle, yeah, looks kind of like Yanni. Like he, at this time, he got a big mustache. Yeah, I can't even let him in until later on. But
sorry.
So anyway, he starts this zoo.
This is going to be a 4-hour podcast, by the way. Strap in.
Absolutely. There's
No, you're going to edit
it has to be
shorter.
Yeah, you got to edit all the every time. I can't help but curse. I'm sorry, everyone, but I am just fired up and it just comes out of me. So you're gonna have to deal with it. Joe Exotic would approve of it, of the language. So eventually, here are some notes that I made, and I'd like you all just to kind of react to my notes. The head keeper found the place on Craigslist, and then a year later was running tiger shows. Phil, you got any? Look, that's just a fact.
They must have a robust training program.
100% qualified.
Oh yeah, well this just goes back to your recruitment story of how he just roamed Oklahoma with a bus full of meth and just pulled on whoever.
Isn't it like classic cult leader shit? Like you find like disenfranchised people looking for a cause. Like
people
that's
who
what he
have
was doing.
nowhere else to go, and they're like, well, this guy's gonna pay me $8 an hour to scoop up tiger shit. Then
zoo, whatever head zookeeper dude, like fully, that was like what saved his life.
Him.
I mean, he was definitely fucked up, but messed up. But like that was like this was the thing that saved his life for sure. Because you saw in the end, once it's over, you're like, oh no, is this guy like overdosing on drugs? And just like, bye.
Yeah,
and he totally seemed like he cared about the tigers too.
Only person that seemed like he really cared.
Yeah,
for sure. He pulled out his little folder full of like portraits of him and the tigers, and it was this documentary is very funny, but it goes some dark places for sure.
Very dark.
And where they lived, like he would recruit. There's one scene in the show where he goes to a gas station, and like he's just like, "Hey, do you want to live? Do you want to live in a trailer? You could work at a burger place, and then you could come live in a trailer." And this lady's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll live in a trailer." And then they show the trailers. There's like four trailers. Yeah, there's 4 trailers. And then one dude is like laying on, he just has a mattress with a sheet on it. And there's 17 like big red sodas all half drunk there. You're like, what is that guy? Is that all he drinks? Like, why? He should have a water. It's hot. It's hot out in Oklahoma.
They pull out one of the drawers on the dresser and a rat goes running.
Yeah.
And the jokes, I was like, you want to live in my trailer park? And,
but like this guy's allegedly like millionaire. Meanwhile, they live like they are. I mean, it's just like absolute. It's squalor. There's no other word I could use.
Craigslist zookeeper's like, yeah, I make $138 a week, 24 cents, and he goes, and then I love my employees. They're saying that it's just like his cult is the worst cult. At least Doc Antle's cult, they get fake breasts and such. Like these guys don't even get that perk.
Yeah.
No, Joe Exotic's cult, they get expired Walmart meat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The one guy's like, well, lobster tails. You ever had a lobster tail out of the back of a semi that's been sitting 2 weeks old, sitting out back of a Walmart? That's choice, man. Choice. You're like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, they dump out that garbage can full of expired Walmart meat, and there's like a nasty juice that runs out the bottom.
Yeah, and they're like, and the guy's like, this was still frozen. Like, another human being is filming you for a documentary. Why are you?
Okay, I think we'll get to that, but I am blown away by how much access that this director got. Like,
totally.
Even when Joe's like hiding from the feds, he's like still being filmed.
He's like, keep that camera rolling.
But they're all like crazy egomaniacs that they just don't care. They're just like, I mean, they're just, or like sociopaths, not even egomaniacs. They're just like, yes, this is my moment. film me saying I'm going to murder this woman.
Well, it's the only thing they care about, and they say this in the documentary, the only thing Joe Exotic cares about is getting famous. So if that's the end game, he doesn't think about anything else. And obviously, as we'll get to in the story, he's not a rational thinker per se. He doesn't, what we'll say is think before he talks.
Not at all.
I'm not sure if that makes him a right brain thinker or a left brain thinker. Probably more like a no brain thinker, just kind of lets it fly, which I really do enjoy. Let's get to another detail. Joe is the king of the misfits, as we've said. He has a gift shop on the zoo, and in the gift shop, I made a few notes of what he sells there. He sells Tiger King barbecue sauce. He said, I sell Tiger King sex lube for girls and guys.
He doesn't even call it lube. He called it something worse, like juice or something.
It's like sex gel or something.
Gel! He calls it gel!
Sex gel. You can put it in your hair or on your genitals. It's fine either way. And then he says, the best seller in here is the Tiger King underwear. And then the documenter, Eric Good, says, do you ever wear the underwear? He said, no, I don't wear underwear. Free balling. I'm always free balling.
Can you just imagine being that dude? Like the whole time I'm sitting there being like, this fucking guy, like the shit he is seeing.
Well, once you find out he puts a padlock on his dick piercing, then it's no surprise that he's free balling.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, he has him hanging up in his bedroom on the wall. It's like, hey, which one will I put on there today?
Ew. Also, aren't all of his husbands, don't we feel like they're not very like evenly matched?
Yeah, so that's my next note about his husband. Now, so if you go back to Joe's early life, now here's another thread that you'll find with all these people. They all have been abused so severely as children, like as young adults or children. Like Joe Exotic tells a sad story of when he told his parents he was homosexual. His father made him shake his mother's hand or shake their hand and say he would never. They would never be able to go to his wedding. I can't remember what the details.
Shake his dad's hand. Yeah. Promise his dad in front of his mom that he wouldn't go to his dad's funeral.
Yep. Funeral. So, and later on, those parents are brought back in as sympathetic figures, which blows my mind.
Totally. You're like, what?
The mom's talking. She's like, I love my son. He's the best. And the dad just sits there silent. He doesn't say a word. But this is what happens to Joe Exotic. He is rejected by his family. And so he drives his car off a bridge and breaks his back is horribly injured. And then goes down to Florida for rehab and is introduced to these animals by someone while he's rehabbing down there. And then he falls in love with those animals. Fast forward to when we meet him in the documentary, he has 227 tigers and is spending almost $1 million a year just to feed them. Like $750,000 a year just to feed these damn things. And that juxtaposition is clear. But then you have Carol Baskin, who I believe it's hard even to say she was gang raped as a young girl, and tells that story again. To your point, Phil, these documentarians got the access of all access. They let everything fly, and it becomes this tragic tale of the weirdest thing you've ever seen. But all these people that are cult leaders are damaged in some way. And it's made obvious in the documentary.
Yeah,
I feel like Carol and Joe had opposite storylines. One started trying to save tigers, and by the end was just a murderer and just only out for himself. And then the other one, Carol, started out a murderer, tiger buyer breeder for selfish reasons. And then I feel at some point after she killed her husband, she was shit, I gotta get right. I can't you know what I mean? She went full straight edge. Everything's great. I'm saving the tigers.
We're gonna get to Carol because I think she was somebody who is being interviewed by the police that just admits to their crimes without actually admitting to their crimes. You know, at one point, she was like, if I would have murdered that person, I would have covered them in fish oil or whatever it was, like sardine oil. Like, oh, is that how you would have done it had you done it?
One of the best shots is like she's like, and then they started coming up with this theory that I fed my husband to the tigers, which is just crazy.
That's how you could, like, when she laughs after she says that, my husband and I were both like, she did it. She did it. She
my God.
Totally did it.
So we have these tragic figures that are just insane. And we know that the best selling. So if anybody out there has a jar of Tiger King barbecue sauce, I'd love for you to send that over to the THC headquarters so we can.
Or if anyone has been to the GW, is that what it's called? GW Zoo or whatever.
GW, yep, the GW.
Please write in. Tell us about your experience.
If you've been there or you've met this person, or if you have tasted the Tiger King barbecue sauce, I would love to. If you've lubed yourself up with the
Tiger King sex gel,
any of that,
or a pair of his underwear.
Yes, any of that. So we already went to the workers. They're part of this cult. They're all misfits. They're all either out of jail or at the end of their rope. They're recruited by Joe Exotic. They make $138 per week. They eat Walmart expired food. They live in squalor, and they work ungodly hours to kind of prop up Joe Exotic's dream of owning the world. He's a true sociopath. And then you get to the animals at Joe Exotic's zoo. Do you remember, Annie, how much money they make in the first 12 weeks of a cub's life?
I don't remember the amount, but I remember like after like some age, like very young age, they're like, we can't make money on them anymore.
Yeah, so the first 12 weeks when they do cub petting, what's cub petting is essentially people come in and pet cubs. They pay a fee to pet a cub and get a picture with the cub. Obviously, if you know animals, you know that ain't good for an animal. That much human contact just isn't good for so many reasons. One of those reasons is they're big tigers. They become big tigers eventually and can rip your arm off. Which is what happens to one of the zookeepers in the show. But in the first 12 weeks of the cub's life, that cub can be worth $100,000 to Joe. And you're talking, he's breeding these things, and at one point he says he has 227 of them. So it's a large business for him. But my favorite character of all, and we're gonna rank our favorite characters at the end of this, but my favorite character of all is Joe Exotic's husband, John Finley. And I got to give props to the documentarians here. They interviewed this man with his shirt off the whole time.
I was like, I love that whoever produced this.
It was fucking brilliant.
Genius.
Yeah.
Genius. I mean, has the tattoos of just like
He has a tattoo below his belly button that says property of Joe Exotic.
Among other tattoos, he has like a tattoo on his arm that says like "Hey Joe" or something like that. So
I wonder if that was his decision to get that tattoo.
I wonder if anything was his decision.
That's a good question, Ben.
He was only there for the meth, which became clear at the very end.
Yeah, and they basically just said that. Like they're like, well, why doesn't he have many teeth? They're like, well.
I love how they explained why he didn't have teeth because of the meth.
They're like, well, it's not because of dental hygiene.
They went on like a meth tangent about like how a lot of these guys were there because they were getting meth and there were a lot of drugs involved, and then just like cut to John Finley, who was like silent, smiling with no fucking teeth in his mouth.
Okay, that's one thing I wanted to say is the editing in this entire documentary was incredible.
It was so incredible,
So good.
And like just it's like if you painted the Mona Lisa, we're able to see the brushstrokes. Like a shirtless John Finley just popping up throughout the whole 7 hours, just randomly to say shit that makes no sense most of the time. One time they show him like making a pork butt or something, and like for what? but it's still beautiful. Most of the time, they're like, "Did you love Joe?" He's like, "Well, I was there with him."
That's one thing I love about the end of this documentary is like both of his husbands are like, well, they preferred women but meth, so
Meth was good.
Yeah, they're like, "Tell us about your relationship." He opened my heart to love. It's like he had been trained. Like these guys had been.
His second husband, when he first came on at the zoo, Joe was like, "Are you gay?" And he was like, "No." And then he was like, "Well, when you watch porn, do you like seeing the big one or the small one?" And he's like, "Well, I guess the big one." And he's like, "Well, you're gay then."
that's how that works.
And they pump him full of meth.
Let's get married.
I married him in a 3-way wedding ceremony.
Yes, and this is where it's at this point. And if I could say this and somehow sound sane, it's at this point where it takes a turn for Le Macabre. It becomes a satire of itself, and like an onion, you just peel back the layers, and it just keeps it keeps making you cry for number one, but it just keeps getting weirder and weirder and weirder and weirder, and you're never going to get to the end of it. It's always like I don't think we know all the things that went on. I think we just got like the base layer of weirdness, because we certainly didn't get to watch these guys smoking meth and do whatever they did when the cameras weren't on.
Well, it's because all the footage burned up in the freaking alligator barn fire.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole nother thing.
So yeah, So okay, so we gotta it's gonna be 5 hours long. But,
Glad you brought that up, Andy.
Yeah,
sorry. But that's a major plot hole where I'm like, where all this footage come from?
Oh, totally.
If it all burned up.
Yeah, that's yes. A huge question here, but a big thing just to further describe. I think we just got to further describe Joe Exotic, then we'll get on to the other happenings.
O'Reilly Auto Parts are in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts offer friendly, helpful service and the parts knowledge you need for all your maintenance and repairs. If you're confused about what part you need, like what wipers are going to be the best, what replacement headlights are going to be the best, go into O'Reilly and talk to the people that work there, because they're great and they're super friendly, and they'll get you squared away where you walk out knowing you got the right thing. They've got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in store or online, so you never have to worry if you're in a jam. Do you need your windshield wipers replaced? You need a brake light fixed? You need some quick service? They'll help you find the right part or point you to the nearest local repair shop for help. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things auto do-it-yourself, and you can find what you need in-store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit us at O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today. You ever get that feeling you're stuck inside staring at screens and a primal urge kicks in? You crave wide open spaces, fresh air, the chance to connect with the land. Well, maybe it's time to find your own piece of the wild, but searching for property can be a maze. That's where Land.com comes in. They got millions of listings across the country, from mountain ranches to hidden fishing holes. Their search tools are like a seasoned guide helping you narrow down what you want. Land.com isn't just about buying and selling. It's about finding a place to hunt, fish, explore, or simply sit by a campfire and listen to the crickets. So head over to Land.com today to turn one day into today, because trust me, there's nothing quite like the feeling of standing on your own piece of earth.
The film. Joe Exotic is a musician / singer, but not really. he has. You've already heard a few of his big debuts into that world, which in general are I Saw a Tiger, Here Kitty Kitty.
Here, kitty, kitty. We haven't even talked about that one.
I haven't got about that one yet. We'll get to Carol Baskin in a minute, who I haven't even really touched. I knew it was going to go like this. I knew this was going to be 10 hours long. So
how could it not be?
Yeah, so he is a musician. But if you look at the videos, which they show in the documentary, he neither plays the guitar, he has like one chord that is not the music that they're actually playing in the video. He plays one chord. He's not really even strumming the guitar, which makes no sense. And they've either digitally mastered his voice to make it unrecognizable, or it's not even him at all.
So you can, if you've got like an ear for it, you can tell if something's been auto-tuned or something. That was not auto-tuned. That is a different man's voice.
Yeah, that's
definitely.
I'll defer to you, Phil. I'll defer to you in regards to like, that's not even him at all.
No.
It's not even close. It doesn't sound. He sings. They do this deliberately about halfway through the documentary, where he's driving in his truck. He's like, "I love to drive in my truck and listen to myself sing," and then he starts to sing his own song, and it sounds nothing like the voice that's on the radio. And he is not self-aware enough to know someone's filming him out himself for fraudulent music videos.
Or when he breaks into song at his second husband's funeral, and it doesn't sound anything like his recordings.
I mean, it'd be like if Garth Brooks, if Gilbert Godfrey was like, "I sing like Garth Brooks." You're like, no way, no.
Affleck.
No. Yeah. No way.
Oh man.
No. I was just yelling at the TV. No, that's not true. You liar.
I literally didn't. I just wrote a note on my phone. I was like, "Wow, he's a really good singer."
Not even. No.
But now I see what you guys are saying. It's definitely not him.
Yeah. At first I was like, it's not that bad.
It's not him.
It's just definitely
No,
not him.
if I heard this on like country radio, I'd just be like, yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah, one of his songs which you've heard is called "I Saw a Tiger," and he's just like strumming. He's like, I tell all the hunters to lay down their guns, and there comes John Finley with a shirt on this time, toothless, holding an AR-15 with a scope up to his eyeball, like somehow hunters are hunting caged tigers with AR-15s at some other alternate universe that Joe Exotic has created.
That's something I hate about. That's the thing I hate is when I'm walking through the woods. And I see a guy holding a rifle up to his face and hunting tigers in America. It's a problem.
It's a huge problem. The meth community is big on hunting caged tigers with AR-15s.
Yep.
It actually might have been an AK-47. I can't remember the actual.
It definitely had pink camo, regardless of what kind of gun it was.
Yeah,
I mean,
He expressed his love for pink camo.
Yeah, when a homosexual polygamist zoo president is hunting tigers in the wild with an AR-15, we know, this is a real depiction of a cultural, the cultural lineage in America of the big cat industry.
Zoo president who ran for president.
Yeah.
Oh,
governor.
we're not even. I don't even know if we're gonna get to that. What are
this is gonna be 9 hours.
We're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going. But at one point, Joe Exotic has an internet show that he's been doing by the time the documentary starts for a decade. And Rick Kirkman, who is a filmmaker and a reporter who's there to produce a reality show.
He was one of my favorite characters in the documentary.
I love him.
World's shadiest producer.
For sure. But still, I feel like he was telling it like it was when they interviewed him.
The first, like the only producer for that show. Like no normal person would have done that. Like he was the most normal person to be, like, other than the campaign manager, to be in the whole thing. So Joe Exotic has this. He's got the GW Exotic Cat Museum or whatever it is, and he has an internet show that he goes on for 10 years. It's just him with a green screen, just saying random things. And the producer Rick Kirkman says he never had more than 80 people watching it live through the 10 years that he did it. Which is another just great little thing about this guy. This guy will Joe Exotic wants to be famous no matter what, and there's no outside force that can convince him otherwise. Unlike if I was 8 years into a live internet stream and 80 people were watching it, I might second think the last 8 years of my life. But not Joe Exotic. He just keeps trudging forward, and so much so that near his demise, he decides to run for president. And in the most shocking of turns, gets a spot, gets talked about on the, what is it, the HBO show Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. And somebody can take over here for a minute because I got to take a break and have a drink of White Claw. What happens in the campaign, Seth?
Oh, well, I don't remember a whole lot about the presidential campaign, but the governor campaign of Oklahoma.
Yeah, well, the presidential campaign falls apart very quickly because he has no money and no support. And so he's like, well, I can either wait 4 years to run for president again, or I can wait 2 years and run for governor of Oklahoma as a libertarian. Which his campaign manager is like, he didn't even know what a libertarian was, but he was like...
The campaign manager is one of the best characters, I think.
The best.
He's like the only normal person on the whole thing.
Yeah, we have to round out Joe Exotic by saying he's a crazy person to the extent where he shoots guns everywhere he goes. He's always carrying around a gun. He's always shooting tannerite, and he's always talking about this lady named Carol Baskin. Is it Baskin? Yeah, Baskin.
Yep.
Who's his mortal enemy throughout the whole thing. Like I said, there's 3 levels of the show, and you get to learn who these people are, and then you get to learn their culture, and then you learn their feud, and then it goes on and on. There's the layers. Carol Baskin maybe is the worst of all of them, only because she's as crazy as Joe Exotic.
Terrible human.
Yeah.
But if you were gonna take, just imagine if you were gonna take a crazy person and split them in 2. And then you would say to the one half of the crazy person, you're a liberal animal rights activist, and you would put them in a corner. And you would take the other half of the crazy person and you would say, you happen to be gay, but you're a right-wing gun-toting redneck, and put them in the other corner. They're the same person, just split into 2 and delivered in 2 different narratives. I mean, that is a part of this show.
It's like Joe Exotic is the id and the Carol is the ego. Or
yeah. See, here's the thing. Listen, I almost agree with you. I do not like Carol Baskin is obviously a creep of a human being, but only one of those people almost definitely hired someone to murder the other one. So
then Carol just straight up murdered her husband.
She definitely killed her husband.
Listen. Okay, you guys are showing your hand, but I wanted to have a whole discussion of whether or not we think Carol actually murdered her husband.
We got at least 6 hours till midnight, so we can keep going.
Is that where we're cutting it off?
Yeah, midnight cutoff.
We're cutting it off when your computer dies.
Yeah, that's when I get divorced. So like there's so many parts here, but you're right, Phil. There's a different, they like having exude different personalities. I think Carol is more cunning, smarter, more organized than Joe, and that's kind of the only difference. They're both bombastic. They both are absolutely insane. If I got to see another clip of Carol Baskin riding a bike, just like a serial killer riding around like American Psycho, slow motion riding a bike with a basket on the front, just like she's riding to like massacre people. And it's like, if I gotta see another clip of her just riding a bike, like it's awful. And so that's her, right? But then, here's another clip of like, a sex doll with tannerite between its legs, and Joe Exotic and his 2 18-year-old husbands with no teeth are like shooting AR-15s.
When he shoots the Carol Baskin like doll in the studio.
In the studio, shoots it in the head.
Shoots it in the head in the studio.
But what's more disturbing and maybe overlooked is he puts tannerite in the crotch of some sort of doll and then proceeds to film himself shooting at it to blow it up in a swamp somewhere in Oklahoma. Anyway, Carol Baskin is like, she's just like the devil and the angel on his shoulder, and they're really, it's really the story of the two of them. And she's an animal rights activist that wants to end all private ownership and the captivity of cats. And her husband, what's her husband's name?
Howard.
Another great character in this. Calls her the Mother Teresa of cats, as we mentioned. But what she thinks what sets her zoo apart from her animal sanctuary, she calls hers is a set of cages, a set of fences and cages, keeping animals enclosed and so they can't get out. She thinks her animal sanctuary is juxtaposed to another set of cages in Oklahoma run by Joe Exotic where animals can't get out, because she's putting them in there to save them from Joe until they die. And she's as flamboyant as Joe. She dresses in cat prints. She has cat luggage. She has cats all over her house. She would snort cats off a table if that was possible. She is a crazy person.
At one point she's like, well, I didn't have any friends as a child, so when I got old enough and I met these tigers, I was like, these tigers can be my friends.
Yeah. Yeah, she is a therapy session just encapsulated in this documentary. She has an army of trainees that work for free. Like we said earlier, they get different colored shirts based on how long they've worked for free. She calls them interns. They work crazy hours. They miss holidays with their families. They seem brainwashed. I don't know what they think they're saving these cats. And in fact, it comes out within the documentary that some of the cats were born there that aren't even rescued. The whole idea is that she's rescuing cats from other people like Doc Antle and Joe Exotic, and then putting them in cages again, and then eventually like giving them to other sanctuaries. That part is the craziest part. But I would like you guys all to comment on. We'll start with you, Annie. I feel like all she does is say things about other people that are true about herself the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, she's exactly the same as Joe Exotic, in my opinion, but just like her demeanor is different, and she's like more calculated with what she's doing. And also the way they edited this is like they edited Joe, and it's all like choppy and like high energy, and then her shit is all like tranquil music, slow motion, hair blowing, but it's the same thing. Like there's tigers in cages eating freaking raw meat. Like it's the same.
And so PETA has investigated her. In 2011, they investigated Big Cat Rescue for not having like a breeding cats, number one, which they admit at this. Not all of the cats at the sanctuary had been rescued. And PETA was calling for them to stop these live tours. So, because Carol Baskin is charging ungodly amounts of money for people to take tours of this place. They don't touch the animals like they do at Joe Exotic's place, but they're still in close proximity to them, which stresses them out. And she has a gift shop where people can buy and make money just like the gift shop in Joe Exotic's place. I'm not sure if they sell sex lube there. I would say probably not.
They should.
But
I would buy Carol Baskin's sex lube.
Yeah.
Sure.
If I'm gonna buy anyone's sex lubes, it would be Doc's.
Yeah, Doc's. Yes, absolutely.
Oh well,
Doc's got the good stuff.
Yeah, well, we definitely know where your loyalty lies, Annie.
Yeah. So that's Carol Baskin. To tell her story, we'll have to do it shorter than we told Joe Exotic's. But she had a lot of troubles as a kid, had a husband, left. Well, somebody help me out here. What? Like
and I'm in a parking lot.
That's the craziest story, baby.
Oh my God!
What?
The gun in the passenger seat.
What are we talking about? All right.
How did you forget this?
Phil, give it to me. Give this one to me. This is maybe the craziest one of all. What are we? Give it to me, Phil.
Okay, so this guy, I don't even remember his name. Is it John?
It doesn't
matter. He's dead.
Doesn't matter.
She killed him.
I think it's Don.
Don
Lewis.
Don
Lewis.
That's it.
Yep.
So this guy, Don, married with a family. He's known to be a womanizer. He's driving around at night and sees a
millionaire.
Yeah, multi-millionaire.
Multi-millionaire sees a crying teenager walking down the street and
let's just briefly stop for a minute. Just repeat what you just said. A millionaire is driving around, sees a teenage girl crying, stops, And then what happens now? That right there.
Tries to convince her to get into the car because she needs some company, obviously. And she says no, keeps walking. He keeps driving along with her. Says she keeps saying no. And then he turns around, like kind of loops around and stops again. He's like, "Hey, check out that gun I just put in the passenger seat." Like,
he pulls out a gun. What?
Listen, lady, get in the car, pick up that gun, and point it at me while I drive, so you know that I won't do anything to you. I'm just here to for you to have. I'm a shoulder to cry on.
And then it cuts to her being like, "So I got in the car and I held a gun."
And I spent the night with him that night.
Yeah, she spent the night with him.
She drives around, and he talks while she holds a gun on him. And then they have sex. And then they get married. Thank God they didn't have any.
And then she kills him. Yes.
And then she kills him and feeds him to a tiger.
For legal reasons, I'm going to say allegedly. But continue.
Right. Well,
It's clear THC has no lawyers listening to this. Of the things that I've done throughout the show, there's no lawyers here.
That's why I'm saying allegedly. There's no one's defending us.
Yeah. That's true.
Allegedly killed her husband.
I am 3 claws deep, and I've drank all my whiskey. I'm flying high at this point. I can't.
So wait, we gotta touch on. She killed her husband that was days away from leaving her.
It
taking all of his money away from her.
Don Lewis's ex-wife is also one of my favorite characters because she looks like one of the Golden Girls.
She looks younger than her daughters.
Yeah. And she just
that was incredible.
She's just so.
And 40 years, she hasn't aged a day.
They talk about Don Lewis. They're like, yeah, his daughter's even like, yeah, he liked to cheat on our mom.
Everybody knew.
That's something that he did. If he had a flaw, it was that he cheated on our mother every day. Who talks about their father like that? He was a horrible person. So he leaves his wife and kids to go be with Carol Baskin after this gun hole. I don't even know what's going on. He's holding guns on people. There's no way to describe this. Then they get married, and somewhere along the way, they start buying cats. And of course they did, because they're crazy. They start buying cats, and they have a cat sanctuary. I think it was originally called, you guys remember what it was originally called? Like Cats of the Earth or some thing. They start arguing about, Don Lewis is a millionaire, he's a businessman, he's a Lazario, he likes to cheat on all the women he's with. And he is arguing with Carol about, hey, I'd like to breed these cats. Carol would like to not breed them and save them. And so they have this argument. Somewhere along the way, Donnie Lewis starts going down to Costa Rica and gets himself a girlfriend in Costa Rica, which he seemed to get girlfriends everywhere he went. And then eventually he's dead.
And while he was in Costa Rica, she would neuter all the cats so he couldn't breed them.
Yep.
Did you pick up on that in the?
Yeah.
Allegedly.
And so eventually he is dead and she kills him, allegedly. She did it.
Okay, so he's been telling his friends, and he's like, "Listen, I'm going to leave my wife. I'm going to tell her I'm going to leave her, and I'm taking all my money. She's not getting any of it."
Files a restraining order against her for making death threats, which doesn't get upheld in court.
So they find his van at the airport, and they're like, "Listen, if this guy was actually going to skip town to was it Cuba he was going, or was it Costa Rica? Okay." And he wanted to sneak away. He wouldn't just leave his van unlocked at the airport. He would have done something else. And so clearly something happened. He didn't just disappear.
Yeah, and they said he had multiple airplanes that he owned.
Yeah, she couldn't keep track of how many airplanes.
They never said that one of his airplanes were missing.
Yeah, I thought that too. I'm like, what about this missing airplane? But she was like, I don't know how many he had. Who knows? I don't know.
Later on,
missing. I don't know.
Later on, when talking about Joe Exotic, she's like, Joe Exotic got attacked by a tiger, and he thought that his people in his midst had put oil on his shoes that tigers like. She says, well, if you were going to kill somebody, you would definitely just put sardine oil on their shoes. It's like that.
It's like the O.J. Simpson wrote a book,
Yeah.
like, if I did it, like, that's Carol Baskin.
Yeah, if the glove fits.
Yeah.
If the glove fits, and it fits in this case.
Ugh.
So anyway, Carol Baskin is allegedly kills Don Lewis and feeds him to his tigers. This is a big rumor, and then
Or puts them in the septic.
or
tank.
puts him under the septic tank or whatever. No matter what, he's gone. She gets his money. She gets 90% of his estate. He's
Oh yeah, she like
multimillionaire.
raids the office. She
she goes in
changes his will.
Raids the office, creates a will, includes in the will in case of death or disappearance.
Oh yeah, that or disappearance. That was a good.
In the will, she wrote the new will.
And the
then-
lawyer was like, I've never seen anything like that.
No one ever
before.
writes or disappearance in their will.
So obviously, it's like I died by podcast electrocution. Like, oh, that's weird. That's weird that
Phil taking all
Phil-
your money.
Phil's
Yes.
taking all my money. Anyway, she gets rich and then uses this money to like lord over all these other people throughout the documentary. So that's Carol Baskin. I mean, she's an animal rights activist who keeps animals in cages and profits off of t-shirts. And I made a note about this because this, I think, is the most telling part of the documentary in terms of the first question I ask. Why do people love cats so much? Carol Baskin, at the time, had 2 million views on her YouTube page for Big Cat Rescue, had like millions of followers on Facebook. And that just goes to show like the power of these cats. This is an insane person who is going to lobby Congress about the Big Cat Safety Act and is essentially a social media superstar. Based on what? I don't know. Creepily riding a bike around? Like, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what happened there. So that we're going to leave her where she is. That's her character. Now, we got to go to Doc Ansel for a minute. Old Doc.
Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Yeah, this war over the animal rights includes like the godfather of big cat zoos, and that's Doc Ansel. What does he make people call him? Bogdava or something like that?
Bogdava.
He's
Yep.
like, Bob.
Well, that's his like legal first name, isn't it?
Yeah, Bogdava.
Definitely
Bhagavan.
changed it.
Bhagavan, and that means like
Ansel.
Lord of all creatures or something. I don't want to make that real because he has the Myrtle Beach Zoo,
Safari.
Myrtle Beach Safari, and he has, again, we've already talked about his cult. I just wrote down. Actually, in describing him in my notes, I wrote a lot of curse words. I'll skip over those. I wrote, a guy rides around on elephants, has multiple wives, and basically runs a cult. He thinks that showing animals to people up close opens their hearts and wallets to tigers. They use money for the worldwide conservation. He's got a cadre of ladies who change their names, who come to live with him, young ladies who come to live with him. They change their names, they become vegetarians, they get breast implants, and essentially go crazy and work like 16-hour days and live in, as we said earlier in the podcast, they live in like roach-infested horse stalls. And he has he does sexy cat social media posts and calendars, and here's another guy that just making money on everything cats. And he also did a bunch of Hollywood movies in the 90s and kind of gained some fame throughout that. He has early on, he looks like a douchebag Yanni with his mustache. Not Giannis, but like Yanni the famous.
not the Latvian Eagle. We're not talking.
We're talking about Yanni the musician.
Yanni with a Y.
Yeah, so Yanni, he's got, and then he later in his life he grows like a ponytail.
Oh yeah, he was this like textbook cult stuff with this guy. Like
He looks
pretty much
like Penn from Penn and Teller, kind of.
Yes,
Oh yeah, for sure. He's got the blonde soul patch. Yeah,
he looks
it's
like
just-
yeah, and like in a Vegas on stage show.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things about this guy, well, like when going back to how the editing of this documentary was great, is that this guy, when he brings the directors of this documentary into his house and his property, he just takes over. He's setting up the shots. He's telling them what he wants them to do, telling them his ideas of how
Totally.
things should
I'll
be
answer the
shot.
door. He was like, I'll answer the door. And I thought to myself, Steven Ranella would never do this. Pretend to be, oh, hello, welcome.
Yeah, his whole demeanor changes when when the cameras are quote unquote rolling. And like when he's just talking to the filmmakers, he's just like a total asshole when he's talking to the filmmakers. But then when it's rolling, he's like, "Oh, hi, it's me, Doc Antle. Welcome to my safari."
Yeah. And just like every other cult leader, like all his women have houses, and they all like, "Oh, Sherry lives there, but I made her change her name to Bala." And you're like, "Oh, come on, bro,
That's China. She's
Yeah,
really
it's like-
set up from Southern California.
So the relationship here, this is the triumvirate of cults. The relationship here is that Joe Exotic idolizes Doc Antle, and he sends his employees, crackhead meth addicts, to go and like stay there and study how he does it, study the marketing of it, studying how to make a profitable enterprise, basically. At some point. So Doc really is just that. He isn't really involved in anything. He becomes a commentator on the whole affair at the end when we get into the war between Carol and Joe, and where the producer Richard Kirkman comes in.
Well, it's
Doc
announced. It's in the last text of the documentary. You find out that his property was raided by the feds in December of 2019, which is super recent.
Yeah. No, and he's like, they think he euthanizes a lot of cubs and has like a gas chamber, I think it is.
He even said once the tigers become a certain age, they just become like a expense.
Yeah, they do.
Yep.
They do. Yeah, like we said, it's a 12-week thing. They can make money off of them, and then they become a ridiculous expense. I remember, going back to my time in Texas, asking the guy whose place I was turkey hunting, like, how do you afford a tiger, man? What's up with that? And he basically like, well, they're very cheap to buy. It's just to feed them, and the veterinarian bills is, could be $1 million a year just for those things. So it's not that, buying them is an issue. It's the upkeep is the issue there.
They're $2,000. That's like less than like a lot of dogs. Like
that's like an iPhone.
dogs.
That's like an iPhone, So similar. And so those are the characters. Those are the people that are kind of like at the center of what is a triumvirate of cults all around this very powerful attraction to exotic tigers. Now, I think we've kind of worked through the first two layers. The third layer of this is the war between Carol and Joe. Did I miss anything? Are we like close to getting to the end of this?
Yeah, I think we're pretty close. We've got very eccentric personalities who own big cats and are exploiting them in different ways, and are trying to just kind of win this like fake battle they have going in their minds
Who's the Tiger King?
Exactly. Yeah.
Who is the Tiger King / Queen? So this it all kind of kicks off when our boy Joe Exotic, who at this point, let me just go. Let me take. Well, I don't know where to go here. Let me just pause for a moment and say that Travis Maldonado. This is Travis, right? Travis Maldonado?
Yeah, his second husband in
second husband in the trio. I can see a lot of people being these three guys at their wedding for Halloween. They're wearing like shiny pink button-up shirts and cowboy hats and corsages.
So the four of us are gonna be.
I can see that being a big Halloween costume.
Can we please do that?
Obviously, I get to be Carol.
Yeah, you can be Carol. I can see that being.
Okay, well, I think we have to commit to this now.
Yeah, I'm in.
I'm 100% in.
I'm in, dude. I want to be John Finley.
Okay, I think I'm Travis because Seth's got the Joe Exotic.
Yeah, you could be.
I don't know, I'm seeing that.
I think that's probably right.
So I gotta be Joe Exotic?
Yes, you got to be Joe Exotic.
All right, I'm in.
The scene
I'll start growing the mullet now.
So essentially, these are two straight men that Joe Exotic has pulled into his world, given them a place to live, given them cars, given them meth, and kind of like turned them into I don't know what. I'm not even sure how to describe their relation. But essentially, they're all three getting married, and they're wearing like bright pink button-up shirts. I just can't describe what they look like. They look like and they had cut this like pink cake. The whole affair seems weird. Nobody seems to be into it.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable.
Totally.
Like, it feels very forced where like he might be the only person into it and everyone else is there kind of like, oh no, like, should we stop this? I guess not.
It becomes clear just a little bit later that John Finley is like not at all into this. Like
totally.
He is not stoked about Travis being here.
Yeah. So yeah, every commentary from the two husbands, John and Travis, they always hedge everything. They're like, I'm very happy with Joe, like whatever Joe told them to say, and then they get into like, how do you feel? Like, good. That's about all they can do. So it's the strangest, most awkward, most obvious situation where this guy has used his power and kind of the flair that he lives with and the things he can give these people to bring them in. He calls them husbands, but they could have just been members of the cult just as easily. They come in. Travis's story is the saddest of all of them. These guys are all on drugs. They're all wielding guns. They're all doing things no one would approve of, in gun safety class. It just is a crazy environment, it seems. And so I don't know who wants to take on telling of
I don't want to tell the story, but I will just say, like, I feel like the show starts right when Travis shows up almost.
Yeah.
And you can just like see the like deterioration and like how much he changes over whatever 4 or 5 years. Like, it's like a different human being.
Yeah.
Just like all the drugs. I mean, I don't know what else they're doing, but you're just like, oh no, what's going on with this?
Well,
Travis kind of shows up and then they like introduce his character and they kind of like disappears for a while.
Yeah.
Like they don't really show much of him, and then they like bring out the whole drug problem and.
Well, he like slowly becomes unhinged, and then you like see more and more of him like just shooting. Like he's really into like pointing his gun at shit, shooting stuff. He's the one that I think that shoots the Carol Baskin blow up doll in the crotch, maybe.
I don't remember.
He's definitely like the most excited about shooting, about just like blowing shit up. He's really just there for the thrills. Like he's there to get high and have a good time.
Yes, and he's just he says he like didn't have a life before this. He's kind of drawn into this world as a way to kind of have a life and have things he never had before and have acceptance and love, whatever version of that's there. And like there are many, we laugh, we joke, but there are many like just very tragic moments in this, and this is very much one of them. It's like a young man who just is lost and thinks he's found within this group of people, but only gets further lost, only gets, out there further by taking drugs and being in this relationship. And
I will say too, like when they go through the whole funeral thing at the end, his mom is clearly
meth head.
Yeah, for sure.
So he probably did not have a great upbringing.
No, and like he says that at one point, and eventually he's sitting in, Joe's campaign manager. What's that guy? Everybody have his name on hand?
I got it right here.
There's so many characters in this menage.
Joshua Dial.
He's like one of the only sane ones. He somehow stumbled into this as what seems to be like a legit. Like a forward-thinking. He said it was the
worst year of his life.
Yeah, he seems to stumble into this as like a forward-thinking campaign manager with nothing else, no other jobs, and took this thing. So he's the narrator of Travis's death. Travis is waving around a pistol. I can't remember the make and model, but I think it is mentioned within the show.
Yeah, I think it's a Ruger, because he specifically is trying to like convince the campaign manager. He's like, it's fine. Like there's not a bullet. There's like, I don't have a clip in it and there can't be a bullet in the chamber.
Yeah. Like the whole thing, like saying the word clip and like the whole description of a firearm as somebody like who knows the nomenclature. I'm like, oh no, if you're saying like, there's no clip in it and so it's okay. You're like, well, that's not right. that's not right at all. So eventually is wielding a gun around, jokingly, I feel like, tell me if I get this wrong, jokingly puts it to its head to prove it's not loaded and pulls the trigger and shoots himself in the head and dies.
Yes. And there's security camera footage.
Yeah. Yes.
Not of him killing himself, but it's like he's just off camera.
Yeah,
and you see the reaction.
You see the muzzle.
Joshua.
Yeah, you see the muzzle flash, and
Poor Joshua.
Yeah, Joshua is never going to be the same. He clearly throughout the whole 7 hours deteriorates throughout the 7 hours, and he comes out in the end. It's just like a bearded vagrant. Like he just doesn't know what to do with his life now.
And he had totally had like Stockholm syndrome because after that happened, like before that happened, he was like, these bitches are crazy. Get me the hell out of here. And then that happened and he was like, felt so bad for Joe Exotic being alone because I think the other husband had left him too by that point for a woman that he got pregnant. But he was just like, I couldn't leave him. And so he just stayed.
Yeah, he just stayed. There's no more campaign, no more presidential governor campaign. So he just stays. But yeah, there's something weird that draws people to this that I don't know. So that's the saddest part of it, this young man that dies. And then at the funeral, it gets weird. Joe Exotic sings, makes it all about him, makes it a performance like he kind of always does. That's where the point of the documentary where you just got to like feel everybody's exhaustion with Joe Exotic. Like you start to feel the palpable, just like this is getting old. This is not going to end well. Like this guy's losing it a little bit at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
O'Reilly Auto Parts are in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts offer friendly, helpful service and the parts knowledge you need for all your maintenance and repairs. If you're confused about what part you need, like what wipers are going to be the best, what replacement headlights are going to be the best, go into O'Reilly and talk to the people that work there because they're great and they're super friendly and they'll get you squared away where you walk out knowing you got the right thing. They've got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in-store or online, so you never have to worry if you're in a jam. Do you need your windshield wipers replaced? You need a brake light fixed? You need some quick service? They'll help you find the right part or point you to the nearest local repair shop for help. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things auto do-it-yourself, and you can find what you need in-store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit us at O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today. You ever get that feeling you're stuck inside staring at screens and a primal urge kicks in? You crave wide open spaces, fresh air, the chance to connect with the land. Well, maybe it's time to find your own piece of the wild, but searching for property can be a maze. That's where Land.com comes in. They got millions of listings across the country, from mountain ranches to hidden fishing holes. Their search tools are like a seasoned guide helping you narrow down what you want. Land.com isn't just about buying and selling. It's about finding a place to hunt, fish, explore, or simply sit by a campfire and listen to the crickets. So head over to Land.com today to turn one day into today. Because trust me, there's nothing quite like the feeling of standing on your own piece of earth.
So where do we go next? Phil, help me out here.
Oh, he gone.
Oh, Phil gone?
I think we should go to is it too soon to go to the Vegas guy?
No, that's what happens next. It's like that all happens and then kind of simultaneously, maybe.
Yeah.
And the timeline is unclear, really. They kind of jump back and forth a lot.
So
we should go to the Jeff Lowe.
The Jeff Lowe, yeah. So what happens is, this is maybe the dumbest part of it. Joe Exotic feels like that the power of Google is helping Carol Baskin so much because when you Google Big Cat Rescue, you come up with Big Cat Rescue. And you can't have that.
I forgot about this.
I'm listening to this. I'm like, well, you can't have that. If you Google if you Google a thing, you can't get the thing. And so he decides to create Big Cat Rescue Entertainment, which is kind of his live touring show. And at this point, this is when he opens a window for, and this is when he's like shooting sex dolls that are dressed like Carol. He's just flying off the handle, and he creates Big Cat Rescue Entertainment, which is clearly a ruse, as some of the characters say, to kind of steal the digital thunder from the actual Big Cat Rescue. And our buddy Howard is kind of, I feel like, the mastermind of suing Joe Exotic for infringement. For infringement. They sue him, they win, and they go about collecting, I think, $1 million or $2 million restitution of some kind. And this is where Joe Exotic starts to slide into what eventually becomes the end of his whole story. And he starts to get desperate, and he doesn't have any money. They're coming after him for all his possessions. They're trying to take everything he has. They're trying to force him to stop cub petting and selling and breeding tigers. And in comes Jeff Lowe, and I will let Annie describe this person.
Oh, God. Like physically, or
just freewheel it. We're 2 hours in. Just let it fly.
Okay, Jeff Lowe is another like big cat fanatic, but his kind of like deal is that he's really into like Las Vegas strippers, clubs, and like threesomes or just like group sex type things is what it seems like. He goes and has a party at like a hotel room in Vegas and totes a baby like tiger in via like a rolling suitcase. And then brings it into a room and then lets like people cuddle it. He looks insane. He's like a silver hair and he wears a do-rag under white guy, do-rag or some kind of bandana under like a very large
Oakley hat.
Oakley hat. And then he wears like that. What's that shit that's like I can't remember the name of it.
His jeans have so many
tight, like faded, ripped jeans.
Yeah, yep. So his jeans have so many holes in them. You're like, dude, you're gonna be cold. Well, you might as well just be wearing shorts, man. Like he just dresses like a teenager that's never had a mirror in front of. Like
total scumbag.
Total scumbag.
Disgusting. And his like description or his like title or his whatever like job description on the lower third is like businessman.
Yeah, entrepreneur,
man of business. I have the man of business. Yes, and so he comes in as an investor, quote unquote, and he starts to rain chaos down on the GW Exotic Zoo Menagerie meth house. He comes in, and because Joe can't really, if he owns anything, Carol will take it. If anything is owned in his name, Carol will just take it as part of the lawsuit. So he gives ownership of the zoo, the entire thing, to Jeff Lowe after a whole bunch of things happened to kind of buddy them up to each other. So he basically, for the purposes of not giving it to Carol, gives it to Jeff. And that's where the end begins right there when he gives it to Jeff. I mean, if you look at that guy, I'm like, I wouldn't give that guy a ride to the airport. Let alone my life's work. But that's such as Joe Exotic. He's losing his mind at this point. His husband has shot himself in the head accidentally. He's losing his mind if it wasn't already lost. And he's kind of he's got this cohort that is clearly just kind of setting him up to take his wealth, I think. Where are we at?
For sure.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. And every once in a while, Doc Antle pops up and just like gives a nugget of wisdom. From my point of view, like, shut up. You're no longer part of this story, you douche.
That was honestly one of the filmmaking choices I didn't love, where they just kept cutting to Doc Antle being
but he was there just to establish that like all these people were fucking crazy.
Yeah,
it was like,
but the thing is that like we all knew that he was fucking crazy. So it was like,
how can he be the voice of reason, like the omniscient narrator popping up going like, hey guys, here's what I think. You're like, what? You rode an elephant to the party. You're not welcome. Go away.
Never mind. I take it back. It was brilliant.
It was brilliant.
Satire almost. You were like, why am I listening to this person?
He's like, let me bring some levity to the affair. Here I am. Let me stroke my ponytail a few times.
I'm going to go bathe my elephant in the river now while people watch.
Like, what's he do with his elephant? Like, takes the elephant to the river to bathe, and there's like a pontoon boat going by with a bachelor party. And he's just in a river in Oklahoma or Myrtle Beach or wherever the hell he lives. He's like in Myrtle Beach just bathing an elephant. Like, what is going on? And he is somehow the omniscient narrator to come to tell us, like, yeah, I'll tell you what the real story is, folks. Like, he's like Baloo from the Jungle Book is coming in. Oh, I'll tell you what. I don't know. At this point, he serves no purpose other than the one you stated, Phil. Like, he just comes in and just says random shit for no reason, which I enjoy. I hated him so much every time he came on camera. So where are we? My brain is erased now.
So Jeff shows up. He's there basically to steal the business, but he comes in to bail out Joe Exotic from his like lawsuit with Carol Baskin.
Yeah,
and we must say this. We talked about the whole the presidential and government campaigns too soon, because this is when he starts running for governor and steals money from the zoo to pay for his campaign.
Which feel like
he no longer owns anymore. Jeff now owns it.
Which I feel like should be okay.
And he was using that money for campaign bullshit, condoms with his face on them.
Yeah. So Travis, his husband is dead. His other husband runs off with a female co-worker and has a baby, and another guy comes somehow.
2 months later, he marries another man.
He meets another man on the internet. 18-year-old man on the internet. Not even a man, a child, another child he meets on the internet. And goes on campaign, whistle stop campaign tours in limos around somewhere in Oklahoma. And it's like if you were on an acid trip that took too long at this point, you're just like, well, when's this going to be over? And when can I get off the ride? Because there's too many loop-de-loops, and I'm getting ill.
I'm getting ill.
Do we have to do another loop-de-loop? Because I've been through 17 of them. And he's going around. He doesn't win the campaign, sadly.
He comes in third place.
Which even that there was anybody beneath him in the voting is a shock to me. But he comes in third place.
He had 19% of the vote?
19% of the vote.
That's kind of a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing.
That's more than 18% of the vote, which is a lot. There's man. All right. Well, moving on as we get to kind of where things start to fall apart for Joey Exotic. At this point, he's crazy, fully on, just crazy. Jeff Lowe has brought in another basically serial killer to help manage the zoo because they can't find any other normal people. And the way they keep describing how people come to work there, it gets increasingly crazy. The guy's like, well, I used to be a felon, and Jeff Lowe called me up and said, you want to work at a zoo? And I was like, well, better than going to jail. And then he just is running the whole thing.
Alan Glover.
Yeah.
Is his name. Alan Glover.
I'm gonna start a company where I'm just like, what did you do? Kill someone with a minivan? All right, you're the head accountant.
I'm a really big fan of that teardrop tattoo you've got. It looks stylish.
Yeah, what's that mean? What's that teardrop tattoo mean? Did the tattoo artist trip and fall onto your face? Oh no, you murdered a guy? Well, you're running the zoo.
You're qualified to fucking take care of animals.
Yeah,
and look at your resume.
Yeah. So Jeff Lowe takes the zoo from Joe Exotic, which this is an obvious piece of the story. There's no way that he's not going to do that. He basically says the feds are after you. The feds are working with the crazy teardrop tattoo guy. They're also at some point. There's a strip club owner named Seth. Help me out with the strip club guy.
James Garrison.
And at some point, maybe the best scene of the whole show.
This is my favorite sequence. This is like a 10-minute sequence in the documentary where they turn into Ocean's 11, where this guy becomes like an FBI informant, and he's so proud of what he's doing. He's like, I owned a lemur, and I've created a bunch of fake credit cards, and I needed a way to get out of it, so I started ratting to the FBI, and I was like, you want to get Joe Exotic? I'll help you out.
So I became a CI, and then it's cut to slow-mo no like wind in his hair, walking by a bunch of semi trucks in a parking lot.
I mean, and then the phone call between Jeff Lowe and Teardrop Tattoo guy is maybe my favorite part, where they're like, well, what's this all mean, man? Well, I tell you, if we can give the feds Joe Exotic, we'll be free ourselves. He's like, well, what's that mean, Jeff? He's like, well, that means you tell a story in which there's a criminal and his name is Joe Exotic. And, like, that's basically, they just set each other up like for the end result. And in all
100%.
of this, the man who loses is Joe Exotic, because he has said out loud many times that he would like to kill Carol Baskin, and sets off a Teardrop Tattoo to go and do it. And do we all believe that actually happened, or that's fabricated?
Yes, 100%. And
I
then
think it happened.
he used the money from the Thanksgiving freaking dinner that
Yeah.
was like supposed to probably support cats, whatever.
Yeah, he has a potluck where he's like,
Pay the dude.
I want to thank my community for coming to the Thanksgiving dinner. Everybody put $10 in the Kill Carol Baskin bowl.
Well, he
Make
starts
sure-
like fake crying. He was like, "This is
His
the only
husband
family
just
I'll ever
died.
know."
Yeah.
My family is dead. Have the stuffing first, but before you do, put a $10 bill in the bowl, and we're gonna
He
use
uses that to pay someone to kill Carol Baskin.
And let's take an hour to talk about this point we missed. that Joe Exotic burned down his own studio because he didn't want the footage from the reality show to come out, pretty much incriminating in many different things, showing who he really was. So he burned down the studio with alligators in it. Why the alligators were in the same building as a studio, I have no idea.
That was my favorite part, is that there was even a sign on the building that was like, "Welcome to the Joe Exotic TV studio and alligator
Slash alligator sanctuary.
/ alligator room."
That's my favorite. He's like, they got my alligators and my footage. I'm like, well, you should have put those things in separate buildings, Joe. Like, what are you
What if
talking
our
about?
office just had also an alligator sanctuary?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like-
here's the server and here's the alligator room.
Yeah, that's like they got my collection of buffalo and my collection of rare scooters from 1970. Like, well, why are those two things in the same place? What? Like, no wonder. Anyway, there's a lot of reasons why we feel like Joe Exotic burned down. Did everybody agree that we feel like Joe Exotic burned down his own building?
Oh, absolutely.
Totally. He had that
100%.
conversation. He had that videotape conversation with his lawyer, and the lawyer's like, "You know what you need to do, right?"
yeah.
And he's like, "Yep," and walked
Yeah.
out.
I
Hey,
need
who
it.
filmed that?
Yeah,
I don't know.
You know what I need to do is burn down my studio alligator sanctuary. So the Kirkman producer has been filming a documentary all this time, and he's got all this incriminating footage of Joe, and he's got a contract that says, I basically own you, I own your internet show, and this freaks out the lawyer and freaks out Joe Exotic. So Joe basically sets up a deal where he goes and burns it down, and then goes on TV like, I don't know who burned down my alligator studio exhibit, and I'm in ruin, and then convinces all these people to help him rebuild. And then
Someone does it for like free, basically.
yeah, then shaves off a little money from the rebuild to pay Teardrop Tattoo to go kill Carol Baskin, which in a financially shrewd move nonetheless. This is basically the end of Joe Exotic, right?
Paid him $3,000.
So I don't know where we go from here, but basically the feds catch up to this and easily take control of it because none of these people know what they're doing. Phil, I'll let you kind of take us to where we're going to get to an end here. What do we need to say now?
Well, I mean, it's essentially Jeff Lowe and the strip club owner, which I've already forgotten his name, even though we've already gone over it.
James Garrison.
Okay, they kind of team up to listen. Let's throw Joe under the bus to make sure that I don't get in trouble for beating my wife, and you don't get in trouble for owning an illegal lemur and
Stealing a Hummer.
stealing a Hummer and creating illegal credit cards. And so they get enough. They get Alan, the teardrop man, to kind of tell the feds that like he's like, yeah, Joe gave me $3,000 and I didn't go to Florida like I said I would. I ran away somewhere else. So Joe goes to prison, and they're set free. Like none of them, at least for the time being, are kind of scot free. Jeff Lowe is still presumably trying to open his new zoo, even though the documentary makes it clear that it thinks that he's just as guilty as Joe. There's a whole sequence where I mean, there's multiple witnesses that say that Jeff Lowe was like helping Joe try to murder Carol. He's like looking up Google Maps, trying to see where she rides her bike during the day so that they can ambush her to kill her. But Jeff, because he cooperated with the FBI, is he's free. He's opening a new zoo, and yeah, we find out that he's having a child with his wife Lauren, and he one of the skeeviest sequences in the documentary. He's
my favorite.
He's clearly not excited at all to be having a child, and he's like, as soon as Lauren has this baby, she's getting back in the gym, and I'm gonna screw our new nanny. Yeah,
I've never seen anybody like Tinder a nanny before, but this is what this guy's doing. You got to tip your hat to the documentarians here, because these people are crazy. Who knows what they would say or not say, but somehow he got them to say all the perfect things. I mean, I just can't imagine me coming to someone saying, I'm filming a documentary, and then, Jeff Lowe is showing pictures of the nannies he hopes to have sex with. It just seems so outlandish, some of the stuff they got on camera. I just can't imagine. I don't know what to do with it.
Yep, and I don't know if we want to talk about the end yet, but
yeah, we should get there. We should get to the end.
At the end, John Rinke guy that lost his legs, he's like, why isn't Jeff getting in trouble? And he calls the FBI. And they tell him that like this whole thing is far from over.
Yeah.
I bet it's all getting shut down.
Yeah. I don't. There's no way to know how to end this story, but I feel like Joe. I mean, it's odd. Let's just say Joe Exotic goes to jail. Of course, yes. There's a million things that he's done and not done to I would say, land himself in the situation he's in. He's the one that goes to jail, which is kind of ironic, right? And we said in the very beginning, like, he comments at the end how weird it is and horrible it is and what life in a cage is like, which I feel like brings it home in a poetic way. That this is just, all of this is a commentary on, the type of person that would take on an endeavor like this, and what, kind of the insanity that they have to hold. And then this one man who becomes emblematic of the whole culture, the whole story. He's in a cage, wants out of the cage, and at the same time, all these animals that propped him up for so long remain there. That to me is the ending. Do you guys feel like there's other things, endings, other versions of the narrative that need to be addressed? Seth?
No, I think that covers it.
I mean, I feel like it's only a matter of time before Jeff Lowe goes to jail for something or other.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't love the ending of this. I just feel like the sad part is there's kind of no justice for all these animals in captivity.
And that's, I mean, they try to make that point at the end of the documentary. Like, literally the last 2 minutes, it becomes just like, they're like, okay, you've watched this documentary for the last 7 episodes, but don't forget about the tigers. And they give you statistics, and they honestly, like, this part kind of was like heartbreaking to me. They show some really old footage of Joe Exotic where he seems like a completely different person, where it's like when he first opened the zoo. And he's talking like his mind is in a completely different place. He honestly, I mean, maybe I'm naive, but it seems like his heart's in the right spot, where he's honestly trying to do good for the tigers, whether or not it's like the right way of going. But like he becomes a different person. Just he's like warped by the fame and the money throughout the documentary, and the big kind of period at the end of the doc is like, don't forget about these animals. Like there's more in captivity in America alone than there are in the wild. And I don't know. I thought it was poignant. There was a part of me that was hoping that it would still come back around to Carol. And it would be like, and actually Carol did murder her husband. but that never happened. But I don't know. It was entertaining.
A list of questions that I have here and that I've kind of looked at, like that we have that are left unanswered. We already covered a lot of them. Is this really Joe? We can just answer yes or no. Is this really Joe's singing voice?
No.
Yes.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Is Jeff Lowe going to jail?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did Joe really think he would become governor?
Yes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think president was maybe a stretch, but I think he really thought that he had a chance for governor.
Did Carol kill her husband?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Allegedly.
Probably. Allegedly, probably.
Would each of you take a picture with a baby tiger?
No. Not any. Oh.
Not into tigers.
Yeah.
Would you let me film you slow-mo jet ski?
Of course.
For sure.
Absolutely.
What's up with Howard? Carol's husband.
Yeah, is he like a lawyer? Like, what's his deal?
I have no idea.
That guy annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah, is just kind of a weird antagonist in the whole thing. So I just wrote down, like, what's up with Howard? Why? Why is he? What about?
He clearly has like no authority in his relationship, so I think he just tries to take it out. He tries to take it out on Joe Exotic.
Big time beta. What about all the other animals at the zoo? What happens with the bears and the wolves and all the other things that are kind of like side pieces to the tiger?
I don't know. Hopefully they go to a good home.
Okay, last question that we need to answer.
We should do the which character are you on BuzzFeed?
Oh, we can do
Anyway,
that too.
continue.
We can do that too. What makes Carol better than Joe? Anybody?
I think she like grew a conscience eventually, so now she's trying to do the right thing.
Okay.
She's not breeding baby tigers anymore. Like she's not raising tigers. I don't know.
And this is where this. Let me just. I kind of am prepared to do this. This is where this becomes analogous to this podcast and kind of like what happens within the animal rights world. Everybody kind of has their angle or their view on wildlife or their view on animals. Everybody cares about them in their own way.
Yeah, I got you. I think. I mean, just to bring it back around, I think it all comes down to whether or not you think Carol is a murderer. Because I think we can agree that her motivations, as far as like big cats go, it's not. We think it's like mostly selfish. She operates under the guise that she's saving these cats, and she claims that she obtains most of these cats from places where they would have otherwise been euthanized or taken advantage of. And so she keeps these because they can't just be introduced back into the wild. She gives them a quote unquote like happy life until they die. It kind of depends on whether or not we believe her story, and we think that, and if we think that she killed her husband or not, because otherwise, I think we can agree, like personality wise and ego wise, that she's pretty similar to Doc Antle and Joe Exotic. I mean, she's still profiting and not paying her workers, and I guess you could make the argument that, like, well, she needs to keep the lights on, so, she's got to profit in some way. But she's still operating a zoo, and, I don't know. I think I would argue that she is slightly better than Joe and Doc, but I feel like we're kind of splitting hairs here.
Well, that's the question. Is Carol better than Joe? So Seth, give it to us.
I don't think. I developed a strong like hatred for that woman throughout the whole series. She's just a slime ball.
Can't wait to dress up as her for Halloween.
Yeah, I just think she's doing all the same shit that Joe is. You know, I think she's definitely covering up her husband's death. I think she's doing, like, as far as the cats, I think she's doing the same thing. She's profiting. She's using the cats to make money. It wouldn't surprise me if she's actually breeding them in some sort of way, where she was, like, totally against that. Didn't they show, like, in her early life with these cats, she was breeding them?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Yeah, that had traces a lot back to Don Lewis, but yeah, for sure. They definitely did that. Yeah, so that's a big part.
I don't think she's any better than Joe,
Annie?
in my opinion.
What? Same question?
Same question.
Yeah, I agree with Seth. I think she's just as bad. Like,
okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I obviously agree. I think, like I said, I think it shows a lot about our intentions. Everybody on the everybody on the outside is expressing value for these animals, and they're doing what they're doing behind closed doors to make sure that they profit and get what they want from the situation. And then each of them has created a narrative to kind of shield their intentions, even though their intentions kind of change over time. Like Phil said, in opposite directions, it changes over time. But they're both kind of corrupted by, their own wants and desires in different ways. So, I won't go too deep on it because this is the craziest thing that ever was created. So I guess I'll close by saying on my own thing. Like, I think coronavirus, pandemic, Tiger King, all of it, like it wouldn't have been this popular in any other setting. Like, it just hit at a time where we were thirsty for distraction, thirsty for people crazier than us, and just thirsty for exactly this, even though you can't really define what it is.
I agree. I wonder if it was supposed to drop at a different time, and they're like, "Oh, everyone's at home right now. Like, now's the time to drop this shit on Netflix."
I hope they're that smart, but I mean, there just is. This just is a moment in time, and when I think back to the quarantine and the pandemic, I will think of Tiger King, and I don't know what that means, and it's very confusing, and I feel silly, but that's true.
Well, I mean, Joe Exotic wanted nothing more than to be a celebrity, and I feel like he's more because of this global pandemic, he's going to be more famous than ever. Yep. Sure, it's very probable he's going to die in prison, but is this what he wanted all along? I don't know.
Could be. That's an open question. Well, thank you, everyone, for being a part of whatever this was. And
I hope there's a season 2.
I really do.
Because I feel like there's more of the story to be told.
There's a layer of this story that we just didn't see that we should have seen. So let's cross our fingers. But thank you, everyone, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.
That's it. That's all. Whew, Philip, I am worn out, buddy. Worn out. Not sure what to say other than I'm glad we did that.
Yes, I think this was needed. This after 2 weeks of quarantine casts and just 2 weeks of quarantine, and if you're working or in quarantine, I hope you enjoyed these last 2 weeks. Ben worked his ass off putting it together, and I think this was a good capper for the last 2 weeks. We've got one more week of the quarantine cast coming up, but this is a fun episode.
Yes, I've enjoyed doing the work. I've enjoyed kind of corresponding with all of you out there. I've enjoyed telling hunting stories with my good friends and colleagues. I've enjoyed all of it. And when I could say that everybody needs a distraction, like hopefully this can be your distraction, and it's also mine, and I think Phil's as well. So because we can do this, but I think exactly what Phil said is true. The Tiger King documentary, the whole story, the wildness of it, the layers to it, all of that brings to the fore that we all need some catharsis during this time. And I'm glad, hopefully this podcast helps. Hopefully that 7 hours of documentary work by Eric Good and his crew helps. It's all just about let's remove ourselves from whatever stress and anxiety we have and enjoy what is a uniquely American and a wild as hell story. And that's so thank you to everybody involved in making the documentary. Thanks to Seth, Annie, and of course you, Phil, for being a part of it. And we will see you next week for the final 5 days of the Quarantine Cast here at THC. Thank you all again. Have a good weekend. Go outside. Don't watch any more documentaries. Bye.
The Hunting Collective with Ben O'Brien is a part of the Meat Eater Podcast Network. It is produced by Corinne Schneider and engineered by Phil Taylor. You can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, themeateater.com, or anywhere podcasts are downloadable. Wherever you listen, leave a 5-star review and subscribe.
You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins.